鬼岛之音
Ghost Island Media.
Hey everyone, my name is Gerald. Sorry if I seem a little bit distracted. I'm just trying to get my time machine to work. Aha!
For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear.
Okay, so I'm currently in 2019, the time before the
continue to look
pandemic
away?
when everything seemed so simple.
And come
I'm a
here,
senior at
saying
college and
that
everything is
you're
going
doing
smoothly.
enough, when the
So I'm speaking
policies
quietly
and
because we're
solutions
currently at
needed
the
are
2019
still
UN
nowhere
Climate Summit in New
sight.
York, and Greta Thunberg is speaking.
You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe.
That's some serious powerful stuff. Now let's head back to 2022.
Welcome to In Training. This is a podcast by interns at Ghost Island Media. Here, we make episodes on anything we want to, and we do it from scratch. From brainstorming to recording to editing. This show, it's different, it's spontaneous, and it's kind of an experiment. There's something for everyone, and here it is.
Do you remember hearing that UN speech? How did it make you feel? The first time I heard it, I was still at university at the library studying away. I felt exactly what Greta was feeling, and her words were as if it was coming right out of my mouth. Why did it seem like no one cared about a very serious issue? Was all this talk about, oh, the young people are going to be the future, just another marketing ploy? I also remember what I did right afterwards. I ended up ranting about it to friends and family at 3 a.m., the normal college hours. But after ranting though, I decided to do a bit more research into the matter. Why did it seem like no one was doing anything? So what I discovered really shocked me, but honestly it made complete sense. I mean, we're only trying to change our entire way of life that we've grown accustomed to since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Psst, turn your history books to the mid-18th century in Great Britain, folks. Everything, and I mean everything, would have to change from power generation to the way we make clothes. And unfortunately, we live in a world where that change would have to be paid for. So how much money are we talking? How much is needed to transition into a world where we have zero emissions, or as people like to refer to as net zero? The International Energy Agency, or the IEA, reported that in order to reach net zero by 2050, the annual investment into clean energy generation would need to reach $4 trillion by 2030. Just to shock you even more, the McKinsey & Company did a research paper that discussed the total cost of the net zero transition. They estimated that the total amount of money that would have to be spent on physical assets to transition is around $275 trillion US. You heard that right, $275 trillion US. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 zeros after the 275. Like, that's an insane amount of money. Just to give you guys a better idea, if you were to combine the wealth of Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates, you wouldn't even come close to that figure. Now, transitioning won't be an easy task. And when I say that, I mean if we do manage to pull it off, I think it will be by far the greatest thing that mankind has ever achieved. Not only because of the sheer cost of transitioning, but also because of the magnitude of the consequences if we do not pull it off. Excluding the non-renewable sector, transitioning will leave a lot of companies and industries behind, and maybe even some countries. This could be from textiles all the way down the supply chain to manufacturing. This means that there will be a period of high unemployment rates, economic stagnation, and more. But with that said, the economic benefits after transitioning will far outweigh the costs. Benefits will include way more job opportunities, economic growth, and better yet, fewer emissions. But how can we solve this? Where are we going to come up with the annual investment of $4 trillion US dollars or the whopping value of $275 trillion US dollars? Or maybe even more money to help with the other costs that might come with transitioning. I could go on for ages talking about this. There's so many different branches, and if I'm not careful, I could literally talk for days on end. But today, I'm just going to talk about funding the renewable energy sector. There are many proposed solutions, but there is one that could have a major impact: the financial industry. While this industry never had the best reputation, this might be their opportunity to change their colors and save us. Hopefully. Now, it's no secret that banks have been trying to invest more in renewable energy. I mean, if you were to see a bank marketing campaign or promotion, the chances of seeing them promote green financing or investing in green technology is pretty high. But what is green financing? What does that mean? Green financing is a type of investment that solely focuses on investing in green practices. These green practices can range from anything where the sole objective is environmentally focused. To give you guys a better idea, the CEO of the Green Finance Institute, Dr. Ryan Murray Thomas, said that green financing is about supporting the transition of the global economy to a net zero environmentally resilient outcome. So simply put, green financing focuses on investing in companies that have technologies, practices, and policies to help the environment. But unfortunately, there are some developing nations that don't have the financial infrastructure to support this. The UN Climate Change Conference, more commonly known as COP, takes place to discuss solutions on the climate crisis. The most recent edition was COP26, and they came up with a possible solution to help developing nations transition. The Green Climate Fund was created to help developing nations to take action towards achieving net zero. But back to the banks. More and more banks are getting involved in renewable energy. So much so that renewable energy prices are now able to compete with the non-renewables, making renewables more available. Yes, this is a great thing, but there is still a long, long way to go. So to get more into green financing, I invited a friend of mine who just so happens to be working in the field. Hey Geoffrey, thanks for coming in today. So we've known each other for a while now, but could you give a short introduction about yourself to the listeners, who you are, what you do, what company you work for?
Of course, Gerald. My name is Geoffrey, and I work for a consulting firm here in Taiwan, and we have an ESG department, which I work under, and we help Taiwanese listed companies access international investors. Specifically for me, we help Taiwanese company make sure that their policies and their actions are in line with some of the ESG mandates that these international investors have for them.
So could you give us an idea of what a day in the life of an ESG analyst is? For people who don't know, an ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
But for most people, when they hear that, they only really think about the E part, the environmental part. Mm-hmm. But ESG is actually a very broad subject. And as for a day in the life of an ESG analyst, I don't think there's a day that looks the same every day. And a lot of times it really depends on what our clients are asking us to do and what investors are pressuring these clients to do. So as of right now, a lot of the ESG aspect, at least in Taiwan, is about collecting data and disclosing data. So in terms of E, we're looking at their carbon emissions. So for a lot of companies, this is like the help they need.
So try explaining to me what exactly investing in renewable looks like. How do you make it attractive to other companies, say whether that's in Taiwan or international companies as well?
If you think about it, investing is all about increasing your returns, increasing your money, right? Making your money work for you. And as of right now, luckily, we're at a stage in time where renewable energy is attractive. You don't need any extra incentives. It is attractive compared to non-renewable energy. And so it is a little easier in terms of looking at it purely from an investment perspective. But we still have hurdles, especially here in Taiwan where land is very limiting. Building out renewable energy can be a little bit difficult as it's all about the trade-off. But luckily there are government incentives here in Taiwan and in a lot of developing countries. And so we're seeing progress being built there.
Sort of just focusing on that progress, what does the future look like for this field? What are some of the challenges and opportunities, say, 5 years or 10 years into the future?
I think the problem right now is that the progress is not keeping up with where it should be, but there is progress, which is good news, but the bad news is it's not fast enough. And so in 5 to 10 years, I think there'll be hopefully a lot more development in renewable, be it from solar, from wind, or for some people, maybe even nuclear, right? So in 5 and 10 years, hopefully the world's reliance on non-renewable energy can come down a little bit. In terms of challenges, there are a multitude of challenges, be it from funding, be it from land, be it from how it's being rolled out, or government incentives, or even government hurdles. There are a lot of challenges, but there are progress being made. But unfortunately, it's not going as fast as it should be. It's not keeping up with the pace. And in terms of pace, we're talking about the Paris Agreement, where ideally we want to limit our global warming to under 1.5 degrees. And at the current pace of reduction, we're not going to reach that goal anytime soon. In terms of opportunities, be it from private enterprise or from us as individuals, I think there are opportunities that we can find, right? For companies, they're coming out with greener products, they're using more recycled materials, or they're using low carbon intensive materials. These are all opportunities that they're making partly because of consumer pressure and partly because of investor pressure and partly because of government pressure. And so a lot of times they're doing it to just hit the bare minimum. And as of right now, the bare minimum is not good enough.
Okay, well, that gives us an idea of what the financial industry might do to help with the transition to net zero by investing in renewables. But what about us? What can we normal people do to help with the transition? It may not seem like it, but we can actually do a lot. I mean, after all, a company's survival depends on its customers. And guess what? We are their customers. What we can try to do is lessen the effect of the transition period by being more conservative with our energy usage. We can do this in several different ways. Firstly, social media plays a huge role in our lives and also has the power to influence a company's business. So when you go out and buy a product from an environmentally friendly company, go ahead and promote it. Tell the world about it. This will do wonders for the company because the best way to promote a product is through word of mouth. Another way is to vote with our wallet. So instead of buying things that aren't great for the environment, why not purchase a piece of clothing made out of recycled water bottles or an energy-saving product? Not only would you be saving yourself a bit of money in the long run, but you would also be helping the development of a green company. Now, I'm not saying to go out and buy a Tesla. But I mean, if you have the opportunity, you should totally take advantage of that because they're awesome. Those cars look so cool. They're super quiet. They look like the future. You don't have to pay for petrol. And sorry, where was I? Oh yes, voting with your wallet. So instead of buying a cheaper non-energy saving refrigerator, maybe purchase a newer energy saving refrigerator. While it may be a little bit more expensive when you purchase it, you'll actually save yourself a lot more money when paying for your electric bill. There is something called the payback period, which basically means the time it takes for you to earn back the money you just spent. So in this case, with the energy-saving refrigerator, your payback period will be much shorter because you are actually spending less money on your electric bill than you would with a non-energy-saving refrigerator. So according to Build with Rise, if you're using an older refrigerator using 150 kilowatts per hour versus a newer energy-saving one using only 35 kilowatts per hour, you could save up to $180. Okay, so I'm getting really tired about talking about money all the time and hearing this stupid cha-ching sound every time I say dollars. Okay, I get it. Anyway, let's discuss that $180 figures in terms of donuts. So an average donut costs $1, so you could technically buy 180 donuts with that money saved. What would you prefer to have? I mean, would you rather have 180 donuts or electricity that's just being wasted? And that's just with refrigerators. Imagine how much you could save if you just have energy-saving appliances all around your house, like a washing machine, dryer, or microwave. Maybe you could even buy 300 to 400 donuts in a month. Just think about it. The final way to lessen the effect of the transition period is to simply turn off anything that isn't being used. Anything that is left on is just energy being wasted. That includes lights, air conditioners, or televisions. It doesn't make sense to have these on when you're out of the house or not even in the room. Also, unplugging an appliance if it's not being used saves energy as well. Right now, the IEA, the International Energy Agency, has reported that in 2021 there was a global surge in electricity demand. So some countries like China and India are having to implement renewable energies, which is good, but at the same time keep on using more non-renewables to keep up with the electrical demand, which is bad. Lessening the demand for electricity will put less pressure on power stations to produce massive amounts of electricity just to meet our needs. But what else can we do? I'm still in my 20s, you listeners might be the same age. I feel like most of us are either broke or we're still trying to figure ourselves out. But surely there's something we can do to help with the transition. So Geoffrey, in terms of people in our age group trying to transition to net zero, is it mainly to do with government policy, or can our age group actually do something to help? What can the individual do to help with the transition to net zero?
I think us as 20-year-olds, we are actually in the best position to help with the transition. For most of us, we're coming to age where we can vote, and voting will help with government pressure, right? You're voting with greener policies or voting for someone who pushes for these policies, right? So voting is one. And then the other term we've heard all the time in the past 20, 30 years is reduce, reuse, and recycle. But most of us really only think about recycle. But it actually goes in that order if you want to reduce your footprint, a carbon footprint. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. And with reduction, it could be anything that we use. Maybe instead of changing your iPhone every 2 years, do it 3 years or 4 years, or looking at what you eat. Food is actually a big carbon footprint for an individual. Just cutting back on meat or even changing the type of meat you eat can be a huge impact on your carbon footprint. For example, chicken has 4.6 times less carbon footprint than eating beef. And pork is 4 times less than beef. You don't even have to go vegetarian and have an impact, right? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. And then in terms of transportation, that's a big part of our emissions too. Not so much in Taipei, but in other countries or in the States, it is a big part of your own emissions. And being here, we're lucky enough to have access to a world-class public transportation system. And if that doesn't cut it, instead of taking an Uber, maybe you can think about U-biking or taking rideshare service such as GoShare or Wemo, right? These are all options that you can help to kind of reduce your own impact. But, individual impacts doesn't add up to a whole lot. It's better than nothing, absolutely. The top 100 companies in the world, they emit 70% of all the emission. But if you think about it, what are these emissions going for? They're producing items, they're producing goods, and these goods are trickling down to the consumer side. So we, in the end, are the ones buying the items. And so if we vote with our wallet, we can kind of help change where the directions are going. Nike isn't coming out with ocean recycled plastic because they feel good about themselves. They're doing it because of consumer pressure. They're doing it because of investor pressure. These are all pressures us 20-year-olds can help, establish. And so I think we have a lot of opportunities to help with the transition. Of course, it's an uphill battle, but I think it's something that's worth fighting for.
Despite all that we discussed, though, we still go back to the question. Why does it seem like nothing is happening? Why aren't we starting with the transition now? Well, one of the main issues is that this is something completely new to us. I'm sure the current policymakers aren't even sure if the current economic models in place today will be able to sustain such a massive change into net zero. There is still a lot of things to do, but it's better to start now than later. If you feel down by all of the environmental issues that are currently happening around the world, and the fact that transitioning to net zero seems like an impossible task, don't be. There are millions of people who are doing their part to make the world a more sustainable place. Whether that be from creating new forms of power generation or simply choosing to buy an LED light bulb instead of a non-LED one. If you were to compare our habits from 10 years ago to now, then I believe we've made a huge step in the right direction. While 2050 is quite close and extremely ambitious to transition to net zero, think about it like this. We literally went from playing with sticks and stones to going to space. All it took was a little teamwork, so I think it's safe to say we got this.
Hi, audience. I'm Nature Nate, the host of Waste Not, Why Not, a sustainability science show on Ghost Island Media. And Jerry's actually been helping out a lot on Waste Not, Why Not's new season, and I've helped out a little bit with his new episode that he's just done. So I wanted to give him a little bit of feedback, as is the tradition with Xiao Gui Deng Dao. So Jerry, great episode. I mean, you really just came out swinging, tight scope, clear story. You took a complex idea and made it simple. And, it sounds good. Good interview. But I got to ask, why is there an old man version of you in the room?
Wait, hold on. I'm Gerald from 2030, and this is the point where everything needs to change. The transition needs to happen now. Wait, am I too late? Is the podcast over? Where is everyone? Why is it just you, Nate? Where is 2022 version of me?
What?
I'm Gerald from 2050, and I came back to... Wait, who are you? Are you 2022 version of me?
I'm 2030 you. How do you not recognize me?
Damn, this is weird.
Oh, hey, Nate. Why are you in here? And who are these two older looking versions? Oh, shit. That's... Okay, I'm gonna destroy this time machine. I knew this was gonna happen.
No, wait!
This episode was written and edited by Gerald Williams. Executive produced by Ghost Island Media. Special thanks to Nate Maynard and Geoffrey Chang for participating in this episode.